Sure. Starting time was scheduled for 2:30 to around 1600 hours. So I just want to welcome everyone else as we continue waiting for the others to join in. But maybe in the meantime, we could be doing some introductions before we get a good quorum to start. So maybe because we still have time before they start, maybe we could have some introductions, and I will start. So I wanted to do mine last because there are some people will continue joining us even as we continue. So yeah. So if you're free of just unmuting and just checking in or maybe introducing yourself, yeah, just feel free. Thanks.
Okay,
Hello.
uh, I'm
Um,
Geoffrey. I'm Geoffrey Nyaruri, uh, ESG officer in Margin Group. So I'm happy today, being the first time to join here. I'm eagerly waiting to learn more. Thank you.
Hello. I'm Bernard Ngoruse, working with Water Resources Authority based in Kisumu. Thank you.
Hello everyone, I'm Boro from Nyandarua, Climate Change Ambassador. Thank you.
Okay, I saw maybe Nathan, if you're there, I would want to give you some few minutes to just introduce yourself and give an overview of a coffee in the meantime before the official start of the meeting. So I'll be giving you 3 minutes to introduce yourself and to also introduce a coffee, which is the host of this webinar, the organization behind the hosting of this webinar, of course, with which has we have co-hosted this webinar with NEMA. So Nathan, if you can hear me, you can unmute and introduce yourself and a coffee. Thank you.
Asante sana Matindi, and greetings to everyone. I'm joining from California, where it's 3:21 in the morning. So I'll not put on my video for now, but I'm looking forward to a beautiful and want to take this opportunity to share a little bit about Kofi, which I'm the executive director and co-founder together with Nightingale Wagera. So Kofi stands for Africa Community of Planetary Partners for Health and Environment. And we see with the presentations that will happen today a lot of content at the nexus between health and environment, and taking this virtual option of making it so that as many people as possible can join and learn is a way to promote partnering for our one shared home on planet Earth. So we are active in different parts of Kenya, Africa, and the world. And we invite all of you to stay connected and help us to green the planet and do it in a way that we center children, communities, and the most affected people as stewards of the earth. So we look forward to actively engaging and sharing more of the opportunities that are there for working together. And I'll hand it back to Matindi to take us through the remainder of the program. Asante.
Yeah, thank you so much, Nathan. I can see people are still joining us. So, welcome everyone. And also feel free to introduce yourself in the chat box. And yeah, maybe if anyone else wants to come in and just check in with us or maybe introduce themselves, just feel free because we're still waiting for the official starting time, which is 2:30.
Yeah, hello everyone. Hello.
Hi, Lillian.
Yeah, I don't have much to say. I'm Lilian Mutio from REREC. From Rural Electrification and Renewable Energy Corporation under the Ministry of Energy. So we are partners or stakeholders for the event. We are also stakeholders in terms of we do renewable energy and construction of lines, of course, for the electrification. So we are concerned parties and also, of course, stakeholders in the conservation sphere. Yeah, I'm glad to be here. Thank you. Yes, thank you.
Thank you so much. Yeah, thank you, Lillian. And maybe people can also be sharing their their social media platforms like LinkedIn. Just feel free to paste your link there for connection and to also expand our network. Anyone else who want to come in?
benefits that we associate with for these ecosystems. But we are not just protecting for the purpose, for the sake of deriving the benefits. Even our future generations, we still require these benefits. So
Yeah, I'm just checking the chat box and I can see we have people from Rwanda. This is Leonard. So maybe Leonard, if it's okay with you, you can unmute and just share about yourself and maybe what Rwanda is doing to commemorate the World Wetlands Day. So feel free, Leonard.
corporation sectors can be able to take a role if they adopt a wetland initiative.
Thank you so much. I'm Leonard. I'm based in Rwanda, and uh, literally, I'm environmentalist. Doing some works around ecosystem restoration, and I do have my own company called We for Climate, where we do restoration work. And currently, we have a agroforestry project that is going on, where we work with communities and try to teach them about regenerative agriculture through our model project that we have. And we train them how they can sustainably use land, but also restore ecosystem and nature. So I think Rwanda is doing well in restoring wetland and conservation. But today, I think I'm not sure if there is anything planned. But there are so many initiatives around wetlands, especially most of wetlands in Kigali, to transform them into eco parks and try to bring back the um, natural species like tree species, conserve the birds ecosystem so that we may have healthy environment and people and recreation and promote tourism through those ecosystems. So I'm so glad to meet you all and to learn from you. So maybe in the link I put my LinkedIn account. Maybe we can connect and keep sharing. So thank you so much for organizing this important webinar.
Yeah, thank you so much, Leonard. Just checking if there is anyone else who wants to come in. I can see we are just remaining with 2 minutes before the official start of the meeting. Anyone else? And just the communication that came through. We have the meeting will be recorded and the YouTube link has been sent to the chat box. So that means you can also watch the meeting after we are done.
Stakeholders to adopt champion for conservation of wetlands with their choice. Yeah. So this initiative, the aim is to catalyze the stakeholders there's a traditional approach where governments exercise funds and the government agencies like DEMA and the other bodies who are like resources authority. They are doing what we do every day. Yeah. But there is so much that needs to be done in this country to take care of these resources.
I see we have 45. We have 45 participants, 46 by now, and the number who registered was close to 200. So I'm still wanting to request if maybe we can have some 3 more minutes before we start the meeting to give or to allow people who are still joining us to an opportunity to start with us. So kindly bear with us as we give these other people some few more minutes, like 2 or 3. Yep. Maybe if there is someone from Friends of Ondiri, who we are the official hosts of the national celebrations for the World Wetlands Day, maybe they can come in and let us know what they've prepared for us on the 2nd of February, which will be on Sunday. So if we have anyone from Friends of Ondiri, David, if you're in here, you can unmute yourself for just 2 minutes before we officially start the meeting. Okay, I think we have given them some 2 minutes to join in, and I now want to officially start our meeting today. And I want to start by introducing myself. My name is Batindi Benson. I work with an organization known as ACOPHE, ACOPPHE, which is Africa Community of Planetary Partners for Health and Environment. We are co-hosting this webinar together with NEMA and Friends of Vondiri as a build-up activity preceding the National or the World Wetlands Day. And colleagues, welcome to this important session, and it's really an honor to be here with such a distinguished group. And I quickly want to acknowledge the presence of a few organizations that I've seen posted here. We have Kefri, we have a Coffee as a host. We also have NEMA representatives, we have KFS, Kefri, we have Friends of Ondiri, we have people joining us all the way from Rwanda, others all the way from California, Nathan. And yeah, it's actually a distinguished honor to be here. And I just want to start us off with some grounding on what World Wetlands Day is, and what brought up, how come the World Wetlands Day came to be. So the World Wetlands Day is observed every year on 2nd of February, majorly to raise awareness about the critical role that wetlands play in sustaining biodiversity, also regulating water cycles, and basically mitigating climate change. The World Wetlands Day is actually an anniversary for the Ramsar Convention on Wetlands, which was signed in 1971 in Iran. And the convention is an international treaty dedicated to the conservation and sustainable use of wetlands, recognizing them not only as resources, but also as ecosystems of global importance for the planet and people. Wetlands majorly consist of marshes, swamps, peatlands, rivers, deltas, or maybe mangroves also. And they provide clean water. They also help in flood protection, carbon storage, and livelihoods for millions of population. However, despite their immense value, wetlands continue to disappear at an alarming rate due to urbanization, pollution, unsustainable agriculture, and climate change. This year's theme is preserve or conserving wetlands for our common future, which basically urges us to take action and to ensure the protection of wetlands. And today, we will be engaging in meaningful discussions on wetlands, not only as ecological treasures, but as also lifelines for communities, our economies, and global climate resilience. So our opportunity today is also to share the knowledge and also highlight the best practices to inspire solutions for conserving wetlands, not only nationally, but also globally. Colleagues, allow me to introduce our first speaker, who will be taking us through wetlands as pillars of biodiversity and climate resilience, or basically conservation strategies for a sustainable future. The discussion in this topic will be centered around the ecological significance of wetlands in climate change, strategies that ensure sustainable use of wetlands, and the role of policy and partnerships in wetlands conservation. And the panelist for this session will be Enoch Kiminta, who is an accomplished integrated water resources management expert with a strong focus on freshwater conservation. He also has an extensive experience in policy advocacy and promotes inclusive practices in water resources management. He has dedicated his career to enhancing sustainable water resource management and development and ensuring equitable access to resources. Currently, he's serving as the CEO at the Kenya National Association of Water Resources Users Association, Kenawarwa, where he leads and coordinates initiatives that empower communities and foster collaboration among stakeholders in the water sector. His discussion will revolve around ecological significance of wetlands in mitigating climate change, strategies that ensure sustainable use of wetlands and biodiversity, and the role of policy and advocacy and also partnerships in wetlands conservation. So, Enoch, if you can hear me, please feel free to unmute and communicate with us. Thank you. The floor is yours, Enoch.
Thank you very much for this opportunity. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone, wherever part of this planet you are. My name is Enoch Kiminta, and as introduced by the host, I'm the CEO, Kenya National Water Resource Users Association. This is a consortium of 756 water resource users association working in the 6 basin areas in Kenya. And for those maybe who might be aware that water resources in Kenya is administratively divided in drainage-wise. So where our rivers are draining towards to in terms of lakes, the ocean, that is how we have administratively divided Kenya in terms of drainage-wise as far as our rivers are draining their water into. So I'm happy to be here. This is quite a very useful meeting, very important meeting prior to the celebration of World Wetlands Day. A day that we are gathering to recognize not only the beauty of these vital ecosystems, but also to recognize the immense ecological significance and the urgent need to protect these resources, these very vital resources. So I think I just want to project a small presentation I've made. I don't know whether Benson, you'll allow me to share, so that we can move along together with the listeners and the audience who have been able to join us.
Yeah, please feel free to share.
Thank you. So just give me a sec just to share. So please confirm if you can see my screen.
Yes, it's visible. You just have to maybe enlarge.
Is that okay now?
Yeah. Yeah.
Great. So thank you very much. Basically, we all understand what wetlands are, which basically Benson has put sort of defined to us what exactly wetlands are. And it's also good to note that Kenya has about 10,000 wetlands, which covers approximately or about 3% to 4% of land service. So basically, as a country, we are adored with very, very significant wetlands that are really contributing to the development of this country, to improve people's livelihoods, and at the same time also to conserve biodiversity that depend on these wetlands. Importance of these wetlands, Benson has mentioned this, so I don't have really to dwell on this, but basically to rush you through, wetlands play a critical role in reducing flooding. Wetlands also play a critical role in terms of improving our water quality. The water that we take from our rivers, from our lakes, and from wetlands, this water basically is biologically treated by our wetlands. Also, wetlands play a critical role in increasing the availability of our groundwater. Normally, our groundwater is normally our bank in terms of where our water is stored for future use. So basically, if we don't take care of these wetlands, then we are now going into consuming what is meant for future use and for future generation. So we need to take care of our wetlands because they are also contributing towards increasing availability of groundwater. Food, that I think is straightforward, because wetlands provide us water to irrigate our farms. Wetlands provide us food in terms of food. Biodiversity, in terms of the wildlife these wetlands are hosting, also is very important. Soil erosion, also wetlands act as filters of erosion that comes from catchment areas. Therefore, our wetlands really play a critical role when it comes to control or reducing erosion into our water bodies. Supply groundwater recharge is also another importance of our wetlands. Wetlands also act as recreation and education opportunities, whereby our children, school-going children, primary, secondary, and all that, also get to get education and understanding on how wetlands are important, both for people and biodiversity. Also, wetlands also are homes to a wide number of wildlife. Now, we have a few bottlenecks, and my bottlenecks are well explained by the photos that you can see on my screen. And number one culprit in terms of managing and protecting our wetlands is the rampant encroachment into our wetlands. This is something that if it is not controlled, then we might lose our wetlands for good. The other thing is the overexploitation of the resources within the wetlands. Good example is sand harvesting. The frame you see on the far right is a 10,000 ton truck collecting sand right in the middle of a river. This is really impacting biodiversity. It's impacting the base flows, therefore making that wetland really endangered. Mismanagement is also another problem in terms of we are using our wetlands nowadays as dumping sites. We are using our wetlands nowadays really to conduct activities that are not really good to the health of our wetlands. The other one is pollution, because we find in so many instances across this country that the effluent discharges, the sewage, for instance, that is coming from our urban centers, from our homes, are directed directly into our wetlands, and therefore this is impacting on the quality of that water, and at the end of the day, make it threatening the survival of our biodiversity these wetlands are hosting. Infrastructure development is also another problem. Yes, we can't say not development because we are a developing country, but what we are saying, these developments should be sustainable. This development, once as an activity to be undertaken within a wetland is earmarked, then there is always due procedure to be followed to ensure that that development does not harm the environment, but instead do good to that particular environment. So my photos in this slide really showcase to you some of the instances or other activities that are happening across the country, and they are really deteriorating the functionality of our vital ecosystem, that is our wetlands. Now, beside those challenges and those wetlands, there could be some strategies that we could use really to ensure that we sustainably manage this wetland. One of them is that I know we know that we have 10,000 wetlands, but they may be less than that. So we may need really to conduct an inventory of some of these still existing wetlands and know their status, so that out of that inventory, or rather out of that study, then we can see how many wetlands we have and how can we, all of us, work together to ensure that they are well managed, they are well utilized for the benefit of our people, for the benefit of biodiversity, and of course for benefit of nature. We have a wetland policy. I'm not sure whether it is being implemented, but this is a very, very good document that gives direction on how wetlands in Kenya can be managed. So if we can really lobby for operationalization of this policy, then our wetlands will be secured. The other thing is that we need to promote monitoring and research, and by this I mean should be an inclusive monitoring and research initiative. This is by establishing programs that monitor wetlands health and the biodiversity that is depending on those wetlands. And I've given an example of a very, very, very useful tool that we are using as Water Resource Users Association, that is the RUAS, called the Citizen Science Initiative, which is basically making use of communities to monitor our water resources by conducting water quality measurements. So in that picture, maybe on the left is a community scientist who is monitoring micro invertebrates in water. Micro invertebrates are just indicators that show us the quality, or rather the health, of a given wetland. And of course, there are so many other parameters that community scientists are measuring through citizen science just to see the kind of pollution that is happening in our wetlands, where it is coming from. And as a community, they can also utilize that data really to work together around that data to see what solutions can they put in place to ensure that they control pollution into our wetlands. So we are looking at parameters like pH, turbidity, E. coli, coliforms. Another parameter is dissolved oxygen in our wetlands. These are just very basic parameters that an ordinary community member or Wanjiko, if properly trained, provided with the equipment, can really collect this data. And this activity has really given us the impetus really to push for policy implementation, really push for policy review that work around ensuring that our wetlands are well conserved. So maybe at the chat, I will share some of the links that we have developed as far as this initiative is concerned. One of them is the fact sheet about citizen science and how it is impacting decision making as far as our wetlands are concerned, and also a policy brief that we want to ensure that citizen science initiative is aligned in government programs, plans, and development programs. The other thing that we need to ensure that we do as stakeholders in this sector is consistent campaigns in terms of raising awareness on the importance of these wetlands. And one of the campaigns that we have been conducting with our partners like WWF, WRA, and others is a campaign called Journey of Water. This is basically working with communities along rivers, for instance, trying to understand the challenges and the problems and the issues touching on our rivers, to understand which challenges are these, and be able to sit together with the local communities and work around solutions or actions that we can put forward to ensure that our water resources, our water bodies are well conserved and protected. Yeah, so basically, I'm trying to move to the next slide. Yeah, so in terms of role of policy and partnership in wetland conservancy, is that we need really to collaborate between government agencies, community organization, so that there will be a responsible wetland conservation, management, and research to ensure that there is cohesive national and county effort. So in this case, that it means that we need to bring together as agencies working in the water sector, in the environmental sector, we need to work together so that we collectively conserve, manage, and protect our wetlands. The other thing is that the private sector, the non-governmental organization, really, these are the guys who come along in terms of funds. And for us to sustain our activities, we need to work together with the private sector so that we tap into funding that they have. We tap into their technical expertise as far as conservation and protection of wetlands is concerned, and of course, the resources. Not forgetting the community-based organization, the Wanchikos that interact with these resources on a daily basis. So we need to work together with the local community. There is no question about it. There is no way around it other than really putting the communities at the center of decision making, giving communities opportunities really to share with us some of the possible solutions that we can work around together so that we can enhance wetland conservation. We can also improve our decisions in terms of management of these wetlands, and also for them to have ownership and sustain our conservation efforts on our wetlands. Yeah, so thank you very much. I think that is my short presentation, and I want to leave you with that quote there, saying that let's cherish our wetlands because they are the earth natural pharmacies, nurseries, and storm shields. Asante sana Bwana Benson, good afternoon.
Thank you so much, Bwana Enoch, for that extensive knowledge sharing. So I want to acknowledge the fact that you you shed some light on citizen science, and in close relation to that, because I know most of our panelists here, they have other sessions that they have to catch on shortly. So I will try as much as possible to rally us to compete with time, or rather to keep time. So thank you very much for keeping time there. And for the next panelist, I think 15 minutes will be okay. I'll be doing a regular check-in with time, depending on your progress. So yeah, in regards to that and close relation, I want to welcome our next panelist, who is a community representative. This is riding on to what Enoch just shared on or presented, which is citizen science, which is basically community centered. And without further ado, I want to welcome the community representative from Ondiri. Ondiri, as I had mentioned earlier, is one of the very it's a very conserved space or wetland in Kenya, where even the national government is planning to have the national celebration for the World Wetlands Day. And his name is Professor Ngoge, and he will discuss about the community perspective, or rather on the challenges and opportunities on water resources conservation. And the discussion will be on how the community engagement and local practices influence health outcomes related to wetlands. So Mr. Ngoge will share his first-hand experience of the transformation of Ondiri wetland over time, and the role of the community. The community around Ondiri has played in preserving and restoring Ondiri as a water resource. So Professor Ngoge, he's the chairman of Onkaru. Onkaru is basically Ondiri, Nyongara, Kabudi, and Rungiri rivers. Water Resource Users Association. He's also an agronomist deeply involved in promoting sustainable management of the environment, and in particular, conservation and enhancement of water catchment resources. And he's based in Kikuyu. So Professor Ngoge, if you can hear me, just please feel free to unmute and take the floor. And just some communication to our listeners. If you have any question, or maybe in the middle of the presentation something comes up, just feel free to post it on the chat, because that will also give the panelists some time to think about the responses they will give to your question. So welcome, Professor Ngoge.
Changes the last 60 years, because goes that far. I grew around the Wandire, and earlier history of Wandire is that it was nicely included all
Professor Ngogi, maybe you can move closer to the mic.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, you are now clear. Thank you.
Okay. I was saying, thank you very much for giving me this opportunity to share with you my observation of changes around Ondire for over the last 60 years or so, because I grew around this wetland. My memories of Ondire is a wetland which was never threatened until certain population changes came in place, certain development initiatives came in place, and population pressure starting exacting great demands on Ondire. In the early 60s, the surroundings of Ondire were many large farms owned by Europeans. One of the famous ones was Belvedere Estate, Langley Farm, and those were all managed as large entities. Population pressure was also not on Ondire, because at independence, our population was about 80 million. Today, our population is estimated at 55 million. At that time, Ondire was surrounded by a wide diversity of shrubs and trees. The actual Ondire had a wealth of birds. And in fact, I learned from a Maasai friend that the word Ondire is derived from a Maasai word that is Orondere. Orondere is colobus monkey, because in those early days, the surrounding woodlands were inhabited by wild animals such as colobus monkey. Today, you will not see colobus monkey. The demand for water from Ondire was not direct in earlier stages, but today the demand for water is directly from Ondire through boreholes, through farming, through use by institutions. I should mention that the land use system, the land use practices have changed. We have now moved to intense agriculture, where greenhouses have cropped up all over the place. We have now moved to intense physical land use, where urbanization has brought major pressure on the physical space. So building construction is dotting the whole surroundings of Ondire. The large farms that surrounded Ondire, the large farms that did not impose pressure on Ondire are no more. In 1962, we had the Swinnerton plan in Kenya, and that led to land adjudication, land consolidation, and when people got titles to their pieces of land, fragmentation took place. So in terms of integrated management of use of land, there is a lot of pressure to effect that. We have intensification of industrialization. In those early days, we did not have industries like greenhouses. We did not have big industrial setups like Magana flowers. We did not have this very rapid urbanization of Kikuyu sub-location. And in fact, I should mention that within Kikuyu sub-county, within Kiambu County, Kikuyu sub-county is the most rapidly urbanizing sub-county. So demand for water by institutions like schools, hospitals, greenhouses, domestic use, it's a big, big pressure on Ondire. As chairman of Onkaru, where Onkaru stands for O is Ondire, and Nyongara River that issues directly from Ondire, K is for Kabode River, R is for Rungeri. Those three rivers and Ondire empty into Nairobi River. We have embarked on working with communities because Onkaru is Arua water resources use as association, and the membership therein brings in diverse members of the community. Example is people who own riparian land, institutions such as schools surrounding us, water vending companies like Kikuyu Water, administrators, etc., etc. People who own big farms are also some of our members. And jointly, we have decided to look at Ondire in the context of a catchment. A catchment is not just specifically Ondire. We recognize that the recharge into Ondire comes from far, far beyond Ondire. And therefore, with these stakeholders, we have developed management plans whereby we want to relieve pressure on water extraction by introducing and emphasizing and canvassing for rainwater harvesting. As Arua, we have had a very successful interaction with the schools surrounding the wetland. We have worked with them, given them water tanks, and around that, emphasize the importance of saving every drop of water instead of having to drill for groundwater. I should mention that earlier history of Ondire, it was not a seasonal wetland. It was permanent wetland, 80 to 90% of it covered with water. Today, because of overuse, over-extraction, today, because of threat of the upper catchments that feed into Ondire, is slowly becoming seasonal. So I would like to say community has a big role to play to preserve Ondire as it stands now and to restore the wetland by working very closely with the riparian land users, farmers, and land users in the upper reaches of the catchments to realize this is a resource that is exhaustible, and to realize each of them has a role to play to assure that the posterity can continue benefiting from Ondire. I'll pause there and invite any questions, but I feel proud Onkaru has made a start working closely with what WRA we have with resources from WRA and from government, fenced off Ondire, so that one of the biggest threats on encroachment by land developers, by agriculturalists, has been staved off for the time being. We are looking forward to the gazettement of Ondire as a national wetland resource, because that will give organizations and government departments like WRA teeth to enforce some of the laws that are already captured in the Land Use Act, Water Act of 2006. I'll pause there and then invite any comments, any questions. But I like to say that Ondire is unique because at the government level, central government or national government, county government is recognized as a national resource, and everybody is converging around Ondire because has such an implication, important implication on water supply for communities surrounding and Nairobi City in particular. Thank you.
Hello? Thank you, Professor Ngoke. Hello, you still want to say something, sir?
Well, just an observation. In those early 60s, when we gained independence, I would say there were about 5 schools surrounding Ondire. Today, I counted, there are over 300 schools within Kikuyu sub-county. And where these schools are located, they have impact on this wetland. So it is urgent that working with the schools in particular, we need to inculcate a culture of rainwater harvesting, because earlier presentation during this discussion, there was mention about erosion, there was mention about silting, and I like to mention that Ondire was one of the drainage areas so that water did not cause gullies. Today, because of construction, today, because of rapid urbanization of Kikuyu sub-county and Kiambu County in particular, a lot of runoff has nowhere to go, and it continues to denude rich topsoil, and that just accentuates pressure on land, because even agricultural productivity higher up is challenged, and people will continue therefore putting pressure, wanting to move further down where it is still a little bit more fertile around the riparian area. I think that's where I would like to stop for the time being.
Thank you so much, Prof, for sharing your first-hand experience with us on how or the impacts of uncontrolled human activities, also surging population and how they continuously exert pressure on our resources, our natural resources, and in particular wetlands, for example, the Ondiri wetland. And yeah, you're welcome. And by understanding these impacts, it becomes crucial to implement sustainable management practices and policies to protect wetlands and water resources from these pressures of the growing population. So closely aligned to that, I want us to dive deeper into understanding the impacts of wetland encroachment, because these are vital water resources that encroachment, or basically indulging in human activities that threaten their health, also has impact on the human and animal health, of course, as components that rely on these vital ecosystems. So also to encourage you to continuously post questions and maybe thoughts that you might be having on the chat box, because soon we'll open up the plenary and you can get a chance to direct your questions to the specific panelists. So colleagues, I want to welcome our next speaker, who will talk about the nexus of wetlands, water quality, and specifically public health, or basically the safeguarding human and animal well-being. Uh, and the discussion will revolve around the impact of poor wetland management, as Professor Ngoge has said, on human and animal health, and the role of public health policies in protecting wetlands and ensuring safe water access for communities. So I want to welcome Philip Tendet, who is a public health expert. Tendet is the Chief Public Health Officer, also an Assistant Director, Water and Sanitation, Nairobi City County Government, and also a licensed member of Public Health Officers and Technicians Council, and also a licensed member of the Association of Public Health Officers of Kenya. So Tendet, if you can hear me, the floor is yours. Take it away.
Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you, Bwana Matindi. I hope I'm clear from where I am.
Yes, you are.
Thank you. So my talking points will actually stem from my field experiences and then my professional and academic experiences, as well as my social experiences on issues of the wetlands. And as I delve into the issue of wetlands, I liked what Kiminta presented, Enoke, and I was still trying to understand the issue of wetlands, swamps, and flood valleys. Now, I hope, Kiminta, you've noted that so that we can have a discussion on that together, all of us, as we go on. So, coming back to the issue of wetlands and the nexus with public health, I would want, first of all, to understand, to avoid being like a hydrologist or sounding like any other cadre other than health. My health concerns here will be this wetland is an ecosystem. In ecology, an ecosystem is one which has got both the biotic and the abiotic factors. Now, the living organisms that we are having there are living because of some characteristics. They breed, they reproduce, they grow, but also they need nutrition. Then we have the abiotic environment, now the soil, which is also supposed to be a living. You know, soil in its complete 100% component has got almost a good percentage of microbacteria, whether aerobic or anaerobic ones. Now, in understanding that ecosystem, it is important that we understand the functions of a public health professional in that area. They are supposed to measure exposure of our members of the public. That exposure, is it beneficial or not beneficial? We are supposed to identify health risks. We are supposed to develop policies around that area. And then we are supposed to study disease and the etiologic patterns of that ecosystem. You see, in public health, again, as a discipline, we are only studying the impacts of environment on human health. And these practices of public health are guided by some statutory obligations or laws that are enacted in place, like the Public Health Act. And then we have the related acts like food, water, the foods, drugs, and chemical substance, Cap 258. Then we have the Water Act. And then we have the Constitution of Kenya also, Article 48, which is very categorical. It states about the rights of every Kenyan to the highest attainable standards of health, water services, and sanitation. Now, away from just being very theoretical, being practical, in our everyday life, as we move around these water bodies like these wetlands, you will find some form of agriculture being undertaken around there. Bogas, that is vegetables. You'll even find corns and other crops which are food. So, and we also can have fishing. We also have insects. We also have birds. Some are edible. And the plants provide foods which can be edible. All those foods, when they get to the human, through the food chain, have health implications. So there is, we have another, this, the Water Act of 2016, number 43 of 2016. This act defines ownership and rights in water resources in Kenya. Rights and ownership of water resources in Kenya. So that if you've been out there in the field, you've seen us talking about our riparian areas and how we are going to manage the Kenyan riparian areas. We had the agricultural law on riparian areas. We had the environmental one. But again, somebody was arguing that, you own the riparian, but you cannot do what you want with it because the government determines what you do with it, determines what you can plant there, determines what you can carry on a given, what you cannot even construct there if the government instructs. So the ownership issues there is still, there's a thin line, right? Between government owning that riparian and you owning that riparian. If you're a neighbor to a riparian or a water body. But this act is very clear, number 43 of 2016, the Water Act. I'm sure Enoch again should revisit and give us more insight into that. Having discussed that, I would want to also talk about the factors in environmental health that would make us interested in a water body like a wetland. We have the demographics. Our population is growing. We have urbanization, the built environment. And now we have the threat of climate change. Then we have the unscrupulous and checked use of chemical agents in agricultural practices, in manufacturing processes. And all these get their ways into our water bodies, with an overall effect that now we have an accumulation of carcinogenic compounds in our waters, pathogenic compounds in our waters. And when you go and look at the morbidity records in epidemiological data sheets, you realize that we have a lot of waterborne, water-based, water-washed diseases, water-related diseases, all having an upward trend on graphs. And now we're talking about lifestyle diseases, right? Away from, we used to have diseases because of infections. Now we are having non-infectious diseases topping the list of our epidemiological records. And this has a very big effect even on our GDP. on our economy, on our gross domestic growth or products. Water has been described as life. In dealing with water, it's supposed to be a multi-agency approach. We need to have all sectors coming in. Without water, the agriculture sector will not flourish. Without water, our health sector will not flourish. Without water, um, I'm sure the other sectors like industrialization, manufacturing will not, because they don't even have the raw materials in the first place. Fully knowing that production of any raw materials depends on water. Now, other things I would want us also to discuss the issue of etiology. In the water body there, we have insects of various kinds, starting from the crawling snails to the flying insects, which are preyed on by birds. I think Ondiri wetland has been one of those water bodies have really seen a big diversity of birds. And we also have our people with their farming around there. I also happen to have realized that we have people with animals. We have people with animals like goats, cows, and even donkeys around there. When you consider all those, you understand the intricate relationship in that food web. This should bring you to a point where you should be thinking about analysis of water. I'm sure if we were to take ordinary water at the source right now, we will find a very high concentration of the indicator organisms for pollution, especially fecal pollution, E. coliform count should be very high. Again, I want to believe that right now, because of the surface runoff from the mushrooming residences around the catchment area, should be a cause to worry as all that runoff runs into our water body with unknown substances, agents of pollution. So upon proper sample analysis, you'll be able to understand what is the fluorine levels, chloride levels, magnesium, potassium, all those bacteria. You can have the COD, TOD, and the BOD test done to understand as it goes. Now, remembering it's got a place of pride in the residents of Ondiri. It occupies a position of pride in their hearts. The people of Ondiri like that water body so much. I'm sure some of them feel proud to always continue drinking from it directly without any treatment, because this is raw water, like God's processes have worked on it. But right now, with the changing population, the demographic dynamics, everything is there's a threat to its existence as it is. So the relationship between the public health and the Ondiri sump, in summary, I've talked about issues of food and nutrition. I've talked about food of epidemiologic relevance. Then the other sectors also, thriving of other sectors, and then the aesthetic value and beauty that it gives to our people. But above all, the water that we drink and the rivers that we have. Ndigi Swamp is a place to be protected. I think I've just moved through very fast in no particular order because I told you my talking points were coming from my field experiences, my social experiences, and professional practice. So I didn't intend to deliver this like a lesson plan. It's a discussion. I would have preferred it to be very proactive and interactive. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Tindet, uh, for that. And I think what is standing out for me is the fact that we cannot destroy our environment, and in this case, wetlands, and still expect to be healthy. Yeah, and what is outstanding is that there's a very strong relationship between wetlands and health. For example, when I visited Ondiri, the founder of Friends of Ondiri, who is David, was showing us one of the water pumps that pumps water directly to Elias High School. And when you think about the greenhouses and surface runoff that happens after the rains, and how all those fertilizers used in those greenhouses are washed down to the wetland, and now the detrimental impacts on health, which could happen to the Alliance students. When you imagine something like that, then it hits you differently, because there is a direct relationship between health and our wetlands, or basically our ecosystems. Thinking even about how these ecosystems, they are basically like the supporting systems for our life, sustaining systems like agriculture, clean and safe water for drinking. So I know some of the panelists were having some other meetings, so I just want to open up the plenary for some few minutes. I know Enoch in particular wanted to leave for another session. So, colleagues, if you have any question for Enoch, or something that you would like Enoch to shed some more light on, just feel free to do so in the chat, and maybe I can welcome him for some few minutes before he leaves. So if you have any question on the topic that Enoch presented on citizen science, community centered, just feel free to ask him. Or maybe it would be a good time to also open up the plenary before we welcome our last panelist, who will be talking about linking policy and practice. And I feel like most of the questions will be directed towards that direction. So if you have any question or anything that you want, a comment, or anything that you want to engage our panelists before some of them leave, just feel free to come in. Yeah, I can see Judith Nyunja is asking whether there are any waterborne diseases reported by those who utilize water directly from Ondiri. So I don't know whether, Tendet, you can shed some light on that.
Hello, come again.
Yeah, there is a question here on whether there are any waterborne diseases reported by those who utilize water directly from Ondiri.
Yeah, so on issues of morbidity related to the Ondiri swamp, I would want to be very careful. You see, with health information systems, it's normally an authorized person to report on a given record, and you must also have the facts on your fingertips. So Ondiri is in Kiambu County, which is managed by the, health was devolved. So issues of that kind of information, I would have used it if I'd really asked for authority. But that information can be obtained from the Kiambu MOH office because they keep records of all the case reports in their health facilities. But overall, I think reading the one which is public, the Kenyan, the last year's reports on morbidity and comorbidities, you realize that skin conditions are on an upward. Then you also realize that we had cholera, we had a lot of diarrhea diseases reported, we had a lot of dysentery reported. But something which should also spur your thoughts should be the issue of the current oncological reports. We have so many cancer cases coming up. So many cancer cases. Even Kiambu has reported so much an upsurge of cancer cases. Right? Now, we can get those reports from the health authorities in Kiambu County for the specific Ondiri. But still, those reports are supposed to be made public. I'm sure you can access them online. Just that I didn't do my homework on that. Not very specific to Kiambu. All I can before I cut off, all I can assure you that even in our last peer meetings with our colleagues from Kiambu and other counties, we know that water-related issues. Hello.
I also want to respond. I want to respond on the questions raised. Maybe.
Yes.
My name is Shem Moino. I'm also a public health.
Thank you. Karibu Shem.
I'm also the Secretary General to Public Health Officers Kenya. And on the issue, if these wetland areas can pose a risk to waterborne diseases, yes and no, because these wetland areas, they act as filters to contaminants that are there. They are also they also control the presence of waterborne diseases such as the malaria, if those places are protected from the presence of people. So it is not very rare or easy for such cases to be reported. But if these wetlands are located next to institutions like primary schools, where we expect children to be playing around them, so we expect those like swamps to be polluted by other things. Like children can go and play inside there, and then they end up maybe urinating in those areas. Then, of course, the other things are fecal matter. So they end up contributing to waterborne diseases like dengue, dysentery. The other one is the cholera and the typhoid. So you can say that if those places are polluted and there is likelihood of places of contaminants, we expect to have these waterborne diseases being reported. But again, from the public health perspective, we say if these areas, wetlands, which act as which they are able to consume like heavy metals in it, it's not easy for us to get such kind of diseases. But they are there also to improve the water quality. The wetlands really improves the water quality when they are there. So sometimes we expect these cases, but again, we can also get these reports if where these wetlands are. There are those health facilities and dispensaries around those places. We can also get specific data, how many people have been are reported to have these waterborne cases, and the contributing factor being the wetland areas. But we can get those data and be able to report. But for wetland areas, they really improve water quality in any area. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Shem. Shem is my colleague from City Hall, and I'm glad you are also in attendance. And thank you for your contribution, immense contribution, to understand that issue of epidemics and disease around the wetlands.
Yeah, thank you for that, Tendet and Shem. So I was just scrolling through the chat box and I saw that Lillian had said something. Um, she was just sharing her imaginations about how farmers add more fertilizers, and then how that would have an impact on causing eutrophication of Ondiri. So Professor, if you're still around, and maybe if you understand eutrophication and the impacts that it has had on Ondiri wetlands, maybe you can shed some light on that. Professor Ngogi, are you still with us?
Yes, I'm still with you. I want to comment on the impact of agriculture and specialized farming practices like greenhouses on Ondire. It is true that very intense farming system uses a range of pesticides. As a community, as a Rua, we have raised this issue and we have recommended that pest product association should be on site to monitor the types of pesticides being used, quantities, and disposal practices of containers, because all that is very likely going to impact on dairy. Unfortunately, many of the greenhouses are hired by short-term gain farmers, and it is likely that they could be casual in the use of pesticides. We don't have real hard physical data, chemical data on the implications of the range of pesticides being used. There has been some MSc students trying to sample water at different along the circumference of Ondiri, but by and large, it did not show it is something that needs monitoring. And fortunately, we are planning to have seminars with greenhouses owners so that in a friendly way, they can be documenting whatever they are using, the frequency with which they are using those chemicals, and we hope research organizations organization responsible for this kind of thing, Ministry of Agriculture cooperating, we shall be able to throw more light on this issue. It's a question of research. It's a question of selling the idea of protecting the ecology and having those farmers on board in terms of securing the health of this wetland. Thank you.
Sorry, I was muted there. So I'm still waiting to see some few hands, but I can't see any hand. So because of time, I want to move on to the next panelist. And in the meantime, maybe there's any discussion or any sentiment that might have provoked your mind to think about something, please just feel free to share. Or if you have any question, if you can't unmute, just feel free to also type it in the chat box. And yeah, let's continue making the chat box as interactive as possible. So I want to move on to the next panelist, who is our last panelist, who is going to talk about policy, linking policy and practice, now that we've seen that there's a clear gap in the policies when we talk about wetlands and our health, or basic or public health, when we talk about wetland conservation. So I want to welcome Kamula, who is from NEMA, and he will introduce himself and shed some light on implementing wetland conservation laws in Kenya. So Kamula, if you're with us, feel free to unmute
yes.
and...
Yes, thank you, moderator. Can you hear me, members?
Yes, we can hear you clearly.
Thank you very much. First of all, members, I'll introduce myself. I'm James Kamula. I work for NEMA, National Environment Management Authority. I'm a senior principal ecosystem management officer at NEMA. I'll take a few minutes to do a brief talk about the policy and practice in Kenya in as far as wetlands conservation in our country is concerned. I don't have a PowerPoint presentation, but at least I have some notes which I've meant prepared members to share with you. To start with, members, you are aware that in our country we have wetlands conservation. Wetland conservation is governed by a very strong policy and legal framework, which includes the National Wetlands Conservation and Management Policy. I'm sure you are aware of this policy. We have this policy in place. Besides the policy, we have the Environmental Management and Coordination Act. That is MCAP 387. Under MCA, we have relevant subsidiary regulations, which are quite relevant in conservation of our wetland resources in this country. And some of these includes, for example, we have the wetlands regulations of 2009. And members, just to share with you, to update you, we are currently reviewing this. We have just initiated the process for reviewing the wetlands regulations, and very soon we shall be having a wider stakeholder consultative meetings for you to provide input for that, because it needs to update it. Besides the wetland regulations, we have also the water quality regulations of 2006. And we also have the EI regulations, which are also relevant for us in the conservation of wetlands. And so, members, the aim of the policy and legal framework is to ensure wise use and the sustainable management of our wetland resources and all associated resources in our country. And there are key aspects. Members, there are key aspects this policy and legal framework has captured. key provisions which we should all seek to implement. One, the policy framework has provided that has provided many provisions. It has provided for integration of wetlands conservation into land use planning in this country, and that's why. And we must appreciate that we are making progress, good progress as a country in this. Whenever we are planning on the land use matters, integration of environmental concerns, including environment, providing for wetlands conservation, is a major. We are making major progress in this country. Another key aspect, the policy has provided for preparation of relevant strategies and plans to enable us sustainably manage these resources. These include preparation of wetlands management plans, restoration strategies. Another key aspect that the policy framework has provided is we need to address the various threats members that we know our wetland resources are facing. And some of these threats include issues of addressing issues of encroachment, addressing issues to do with the pollution, addressing issues to do with the reclamation, diversion of rivers. And so that are another key aspect that the policy framework has provided. The need to restore degraded wetlands, that's another key aspect of our policy framework. These are very clear provision. The policy framework has also provided for implementation of international agreements or other obligations in as far as wetlands conservation is concerned. And members on this one were aware we have our key intergovernmental treaty on wetlands conservation is the Ramsar Convention, which was signed in 1971 in Iran, city of Ramsar in Iran. And so our policy framework has provided for domestication or the provisions of the Ramsar Convention, of course, and many others which are relevant. The policy framework has also provided for community participation in wetlands conservation. Yeah, and so later we see in practice, are we really making any progress? It has also provided for the need to keep on building capacity, strengthening our capacity, so that we improve the knowledge base and the knowledge base and the skills that we require to promote wetlands conservation. It has also provided for awareness creation, so that we keep on educating our people, the public, on the importance of these resources, and also make them understand why we need to. So these are just a few, some of the key aspects. That's the policy and legal framework for conservation of wetlands in this country are captured. Looking at the practice members, so are we walking the talk as the policy has provided for? I would say yes, members, partly. To start with, on the issue of preparation of relevant, putting in place relevant measures, including strategies and plans to protect, to conserve, to promote the conservation of wetland resources. I think members, you will agree with me, we have made strides in this particular area. We have implemented the policy. Because NEMA, for example, the authority has, for many years, since the time, even before, since the time we put the policy, and even before, we have all along been coordinating stakeholder processes, and you'll agree with me on this. Stakeholder processes which seek to prepare and put in place management plans for some of these wetlands. And in this area, we have prepared several management plans. For example, just to mention a few, recently we put in place a management plan for Bolosat. We have management plan for Tana Delta in the coast, management plan for the Jipe, management plan for several wetlands members that we have in this country. And so on that key aspect of the policy, I think we are doing well. But members, we have to agree. We have the number of wetlands in this country. There are many, and many of them we have not prepared management plans. And so we need to work together. We need to work together, members, to do much more in this area. Put in place, because the management plans and the strategy, these are the key blueprints to provide the roadmap that we require to restore and sustainably manage these resources. So if the roadmaps they are nowhere, then it remains a business as usual. Many of them will remain under threat. Secondly, in the area of education and awareness, members, you will agree with me that efforts have continued to be made by various players, some in the government sector and others is who are non-state actors, the civil society sector, the private sector. And we really appreciate that the efforts that members, stakeholders are made in this particular area. Continuing to raise public awareness on the importance of our wetland resources, and also on the need to work together to conserve these resources. So in the area of education and awareness, members will agree with me, we have done a lot, but awareness raising, members, is a continuous activity. And so let's continue as we invest in other areas. Let's continue raising awareness to create the right right attitude of our general public towards these resources, and also to make sure that they work with us to take care of the resources. In the area of restoration, members, again, efforts have also been made to restore degraded wetlands through activities, and you'll agree with me, through activities like planting of trees, removing of invasive species. For example, we know what we have been doing in Lake Victoria with the water hyacinth, with a view to seeking ways of to make sure that we restore this wetland. So we have done quite a lot in the area of restoration. But again, you'll also agree with me, many of the degraded wetlands in this country, we need to do much more to restore those degraded riparian zones, to restore those degraded lakes which are being facing invasion by invasive species. We need to do much more. In the area of domestication of multilateral environmental agreements, particularly the Ramsar Convention, members as a country, I think we have made some progress. I would say some progress, because you are aware, as a country, we have ratified. We have since the time our country became party to the Ramsar Convention in 1990, we have since designated 6 wetlands of international importance, members, as Ramsar sites. 5 of these, they are in Rift Valley. It is Lake Nakuru. I'm sure you know them. It's Lake Nakuru, is Lake Baringo, Bogoria, Elementaita, and Lake Naivasha. 5 of them inland, particularly they are in Rift Valley. And the latest to be designated, and that was in 2022, was in the coast, and that is Tana Delta, members. So in the area of implementing, in as far as the implementation of that provision on designation of the wetlands of international importance as Ramsar sites, we've made some strides. So we are doing well in the Ramsar implementing, in the implementation of this convention, but we need to do much more, members. We need to continue implementing the provisions. In the area of capacity building, various players have contributed in the implementation of training programs. These are government entities, these are NGOs, and other actors. They have played important, they have done a lot by implementing training programs that target local communities, some training programs which have been targeting government officials, and many other target groups. And So we appreciate the effort by each one of us. As a government, at NEMA, we really appreciate that each one of us, the little effort that we are implementing to make sure that we keep on expanding the knowledge base, the skills that we require in this country to be able to promote conservation of these resources. In the area of community participation, members will agree with me, where we have come from 10, 15, 20 years ago, today the situation is different. Today we are seeing more and more community groups, local community members taking part in wetlands conservation. And because of the continuous effort that the government has continued to make, even the civil society sector, we've been for many years involving these local communities in the area of mobilizing them and forming community CBOs, community groups. And these groups, we are seeing more and more, many of them taking stewardship over conservation of these resources. To give a good example is where we shall be celebrating, having the national celebrations for this year's World Wetland Day at Ondiri Swamp, wetland in Kikuyu. What if Friends of Ondiri, that community group is doing in this wetland is quite commendable. But it's not just Friends of Ondiri, there are so many groups in this country, whether you go to the coast, whether you go to Western or in all parts of the country, we are seeing the community getting more and more organized and getting involved in wetlands conservation. And so we have to appreciate the role that the government, NEMA, has continued to do with other government agencies, plus also the civil society sector, the NGOs, in helping us to mobilize these groups and putting them in the driver's seat. Because remember, at the end of the day, it is the communities which are interacting with these resources on a daily basis. And so we have to continue mobilizing and organizing them to make sure that the communities see the importance that they will continue playing active role in taking care of these resources. In the area of monitoring and research, the need to avail data, information that we need to be able to do this strategy, the plans. Again, will agree with me, member, this area of the policy provision. I think we are doing well. What our research institutions, government research institutions, even our universities, what they are doing, even the civil society sector, we have seen them through research availing a lot of information and data that we require to be able to make the right decision in as far as management of these resources is concerned. So in the issue of the policy and practice as a country, I would say we are on track. We put the policy in place, but beside the policy, we have the MCA and those relevant subsidiary legislations, the regulations. And what we are doing through enforcement of these regulations under MCA. NEMA is always enforcing the wetlands regulations, the EIA regulations, by subjecting development projects to the EIA requirements in order to make sure that development projects don't encroach on wetland resources. Pollution does not occur in our wetland resources. So by enforcing this, we are making sure that we are contributing to conservation of these resources. And so the policy environment is there. We may not have gotten it 100% right, but we have a strong policy and legal framework that we can work with, we can keep on strengthening, and let's keep on walking the talk by implementing those provisions. We really appreciate the role, and NEMA appreciates the role that the private sector has continued to play in wetlands conservation. The civil society sector, the NGOs, the big community of stakeholders, including the local community, we really appreciate and recognize that the role each one of us has continued to play. And so let's keep on improving the policy environment. let's keep on walking the talk in terms of practice. I'm sure what I'm seeing is a bright future for our wetlands resources. So in a nutshell, moderator and members, that's what I have to share. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, James. I know you have really sacrificed your time to be here. I know now that the national event is, closing in, you have been quite busy and still are busy trying to prepare for the same. So thank you so much for your time. Colleagues,
Yes.
now I can see we are 3 minutes
Maybe
past
Bwana
our.
moderator,
Yes,
maybe
yes,
briefly
yes.
about the World Wetlands Day.
Hello?
Just if you can give me 1 minute, I talk about the World Wetlands Day.
Yes, please do. Please do.
Thank you. Yes, as it was pointed out earlier, NEMA is the lead. We are jointly working with the Friends of Ondiri and the other stakeholders, led by our National Steering Committee, Planning Committee. We've been planning for this, and I would wish to confirm that all arrangements have been put in place. Members, the venue for the national celebrations will be Ondiri Wetland in Kikuyu. We shall start on Sunday in the morning at 8 with of course the courtesy call and then the DCC office, and then after that we shall have a planting of trees, but mainly the ceremonial, because you are aware that is dry season. Then after that we shall have the procession. We shall have the public baraza, and so members, all the plans are being put in place. And I would like wish on behalf of NEMA, we should take this opportunity to invite you all to this year's national celebrations at Ondiri. Karibuni sana. Thank you, moderator.
Thank you so much, Bwana James Kamula from NEMA, for taking us through that session. Now, colleagues, I still want to open the plenary. I've been posting on the chat box that if anyone has a question, a comment, or anything that they want to share, including resources. I know some research has been done on the areas that we've been discussing, and specifically maybe the intersection
Hello?
of
Hello?
wetlands and sorry.
Hello? Hello?
Yes,
Hello?
yes, I can hear
Hello?
you.
Yeah. My name is Kenya. The chairman Kanarua. I have a question for James. What is NEMA doing about the wetlands which were claimed or subdivided by the former county governments? I mean, former county councils, and given to individuals for commercial purposes or residential purposes. E.g., we have like Borosat in Nyandarua, which was subdivided and given to people. Is NEMA having a mechanism whereby they can claim back that those plots and revoke the wetlands? Also, in Meru, there is a politician who has built a big commercial building on a wetland, and that wetland was the source of River Gashuma. So what is NEMA doing to reclaim back those plots which were given illegally? I think it should be illegally by the former county councils. Thank you.
Thank you for that question, moderator. You would like me to answer that now, or?
Yes, please feel free to come in and answer that. I'll be looking at adding some few more minutes if there is need. So if you have anything, please feel free to come in. I can see there are a number of hands. So yeah.
Thank you. Thank you. First of all, to appreciate that member for that question. Yes, we are aware that some of the wetlands in this country they are in the hands of private developers. Not all of them, but many of them have been grabbed. That member pointed out the issue of, for example, like Bolosat. Part of Bolosat is in private hands. And so what I would like to, what I would wish to say is that, yes, we have a mechanism in place. We are working closely with the Water Resources Authority and the National Land Commission to make sure that all those areas of wetland resources which have been grabbed, they are in private hands. They are claimed back and restored. So for Lake Obolosat, members, you are aware that recently we put in place the management plan for that lake. And one of the key measures that stakeholders, when we were recommended, when we were developing the management plan, and it was captured in it, is that the part of the land that or the wetland which has been lost, we need to work with together with the relevant authorities to make sure that those areas are claimed back. And so we are working closely with the National Land Commission and the Water Resources to make sure that those areas are reclaimed back. And this does not just apply to Lake Obolosat. In many other wetlands, in many other parts of this country where we have seen riparian zones have been encroached. The mechanism that we are putting in place is to work with the Water Resources Authority to make sure that the riparian zones of all the wetlands, they are demarcated and the boundaries delineated by beaconing. And so we know Water Resources Authority is very key on this. And also to where the part of those areas are now in the private hands and those who have title deeds, we have to work with the National Land Commission to make sure that those title deeds are revoked and the areas reclaimed and restored. So those are the measures, members, that we are taking to address that issue. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you. I can only see two hands, and because we are over our time, I will just give them a chance, a minute each, to say what they have to say, and then maybe 2 or 3 minutes from now, we'll be ending our session. So, Adero, Jennifer Adero, because you have not spoken, just come in, please. Jennifer, or let's go with Tendet. Tendet, please just feel free to
Thank you.
come in.
Thank you. Now, as I was trying to articulate on the public health areas of interest or concern, I was to tell you that the Public Health Act Cap 242 has provisions for protection of water supplies, includes rules for regulating running and standing water, and the Act gives local authorities responsibility of protecting water supplies. Nonetheless, the responsibility of protecting water supplies should not be only a responsibility of the local authorities. It should also be a responsibility of every citizen, because our water is for our benefit. Thank you so much. I look forward to interacting with the Those of you who will be meeting again in the event. Welcome.
Thank you so much, Tandet. I still want to give a chance to Jennifer. Jennifer, if you have something pressing that you want to share with us, please come.
Okay.
Okay.
Good afternoon, and thank you for the opportunity. I'm Jennifer Dero. I work for Fauna and Flora. I'm based in Lamu. So we are also intending to celebrate the World Wetlands Day on Sunday in Matondoni village in Lamu Island. So, but I noted that we did the site visit and we noted that the landing sites are very much affected with the pollution. So is NEMA doing anything in terms of policies to support pollution of the marine ecosystem? Because that is where we have the coastal wetlands, where we have the mangrove and the seagrass.
Jennifer, yeah, I think that question would be directed to James. Is that so?
Yes.
Okay, so James, if you're still with us, please,
Yes,
you can.
yes, Chair. I respond to that question. Thank you, Jennifer, for that question. Yes, as you are aware, we have put in place relevant regulations to address the issues of pollution. And IMCA, we have put the water quality regulations, and this NEMA is always enforcing this is through its routine work. It's a routine work by NEMA to always enforce this. And so if there are some areas within in Lamu, in Matondoni, and even other areas, the Mokoe and others, where we have pollution issues, all you need to do, Jennifer, is and thank you for bringing this to our attention. We'll bring it to the attention of our County Director of Environment for Lamu, Mr. Uka, so that he can plan to visit and inspect that pollution issue and take the appropriate action. So we have the frameworks in place to help us address issues of pollution in our wetland resources. And so that issue is a question of inspecting and taking the appropriate action. And so I'll, after this, bring it to the attention of my colleague in Lamu to make sure that he takes action. Asante sana.
Thank you.
Yeah, I hope, Jennifer, you've been answered well to satisfaction. So now, colleagues, that time has really moved fast. I know it's because of the fruitful discussions that we've had. I now want to give yet another minute for any pressing issue or anyone who wants to say something or maybe share an opportunity that is oncoming. I know the Ondiri, the Friends of Ondiri, they have this marathon, which is the major build-up activity preceding the celebration on 2nd. The run will be on Saturday as from 6 a.m. So if you are here and maybe you didn't, you had not heard of that, this is the opportunity. I know there are some friends of Ondiri. I haven't seen them post any link to the marathon, to the registration of the marathon. But if you want more information, you can go to Friends of Ondiri website and register there. Yeah. So few more seconds for anyone who has something to say before I.
Thank you, moderator. This is Julius Kirin again, Chairman Kanarua. I would like to ask the Emma James. I would like to ask him, because most of our wetlands have been
and dry due to wrong plantations, e.g., the trees which have been planted on these wetlands, like eucalyptus. What are they doing about eucalyptus? What are you doing about this eucalyptus in our wetlands and also on the riparian land? Thank you.
Chair, yes, I can respond to that question. Thank you for the question, colleague. Yes, the issue of planting the wrong species, plant species in our wetlands, is an issue of concern to NEMA. And what we have done in some of the areas, for example, I'm aware in some wetlands in Kisii, we have been working with the KFS to make sure that we the eucalyptus are removed, and in those areas the right species are planted. And so we are working closely with the Kenya Forest Service to make sure that one, communities are sensitized, if they are sensitized on the right species, wetland friendly species to be planted in those areas. Because for eucalyptus, we have to remove these species from our wetlands. And to address that, we are already working closely with Kenya Forest Service and the communities concerned. We have done this in some areas of Kisii, but a lot needs to be done in many other wetlands where communities are also planted eucalyptus. So the work will continue with the KFS jointly. We'll continue working with them to KFS to address that issue. Asante sana, Chair.
Asante sana, James. And colleagues, I just want to mention that for the last time, because I know we will be having future engagements, if you have not shared your LinkedIn or maybe your email for future engagements, please feel free to do so. And now I will continue to the closure of the meeting. So I just want to sincerely express my gratitude to all the panelists for sharing their invaluable expertise and insights. Professor Ngoge, giving us a first-hand experience, the community perspective on the challenges and the opportunities that are surrounding Ondiri wetland as a water resource. It was truly enlightening. And also Enoch, his presentation on wetlands as key pillars of biodiversity and climate resilience, it provided a very good roadmap for a sustainable future. And also Tendet, his expertise on public health and how he shed some light on water quality and the nexus, or basically the interconnectedness between public health and water, and specifically wetlands. It underscored the critical link between the ecosystems, the health, or the human health, and that of animals. And finally, James Kabula, your insights, on policy and practice, particularly regarding the implementation of wetland conservation laws in Kenya. It was really essential, and it enhanced our understanding on the practical steps needed for effective protection and conservation of our wetlands. Now, I want to really thank all the listeners, all the participants for dedicating your time and sharing, your insight, your wisdom on the chat box, and also resources for those of us who did. Yeah, and to really say a big thank you to all for your engaging questions and sharing your insights and for this discussion. So thank you, colleagues. And until next time, I've been your moderator, Martin Benson. Thank you. Bye.
Thank you. Thank you.
Asante sana.